Hello and good day to you, my beautiful friends. I do hope you are well. Welcome to episode 103 of CrossButtonVR, our journey into the world of VR. Now, I'm your host, Laurie, and it is an honor to be joined by two of the jammiest influencers in the metaverse. It's Alex and Reece, and why are they jammy? Because we are joined by none other than YouTube's own Jammy Hero.
Hello.
Hello, Jammy.
Oh,
You're back. It's an
I am,
honor.
thank you.
Thrilled to have you back.
Thanks for having me. I had a great time last time, and hopefully today will be just as good.
Oh, thank you very
Very
much.
well.
Thank you very much. Well, why are you here? People might be thinking, what, again? It's here to discuss a very important someone's birthday, and that's PSVR2's second birthday. Not your, Reece. Not your birthday.
No, it's not. You're right. You're right. It's not.
Is your birthday coming
You'll
up
be
soon?
too eventually.
No. Miles
Oh,
away.
Miles?
You should know.
Miles, that was last year. No, so thanks, Jem, for joining it. So, yeah, we're having a look ahead and just celebrating 2 years on the market, maybe reflecting on how those 2 years have gone. Probably fair to say there could have been a little bit more love from Sony in that time, but we'll look ahead to what year 3 might bring to the headset, our hopes, our dreams, our expectations. Before we get into all that, though, just remind everyone, if they want to support us, please give us a sub on whatever subs they're using, and if you're on YouTube, hit the like and subscribe and comment, all that kind of stuff. And you can also look for us on Blue Sky at CrossButtonVR and follow us there too, please. So, who would like to start? How do you think, Jammy? You're our guest. What do you think? If you were to talk about 2 years on the market, how do you think it's gone?
I think on I guess I can kind of split it between like a personal level and VR as a whole. Looking at it industry wise, but on a personal level, it's been like pretty amazing. I was pretty big into PSVR 1, and then it's been 2 years now with PSVR 2. It doesn't feel like that long at all, but it's still an amazing piece of tech. We've had some great games over the last 2 years. We've had some great people, there's 3 of them sitting right here. And yeah, it's been pretty amazing. But on an industry side of things, it's been pretty good as well. Obviously there was a lot of talk from some outlets about, some support being dropped and production being stopped and all that. And then we've had a bit of a rebound with the sales. It's been ups and downs, definitely. But I think that's also indicative of like VR as a whole at the moment. We've seen that with a lot of other headsets in terms of sales not meeting our expectations. But I think the headset's in a pretty good place now. I think it's kind of like settled where new users have a lot to play. We have a lot coming out every month at the moment. Maybe not for everybody, all the games, all the time, but there's definitely things to consider for every type of player. And overall, I'm pretty happy with where we're at. It's just been a hell of a journey. Hopefully, it'll continue.
I think from what you said there, Jamie, I think it's that expectations. As long as someone's got realistic expectations about what the VR market is like these days and what the publishers can justify spending on making games, I think as long as people are realistic, I think there's a lot to be excited about. There's a lot to love on the platform. Yeah. I think the people that have written it off and said, "Oh, this is Sony's abandoned it," are people that were expecting there to be a Sony published game every quarter, big AAA style games, and that was never going to happen. And I don't think at the start. And I'm sure everyone would have loved a bit more support from Sony, of course, but there's been so much to play on the headset, big games and smaller games. Just because there's no first party games doesn't mean there's not other stuff that's stepping in and filling the void there.
Yeah. And I think even to that point, like, I don't think Sony anticipated being into the level of turmoil that they've probably been in. Turmoil was maybe a little bit unfair, but I think if they had have foreseen where they were at just now, it wouldn't look anything like it does. I think they would have expected to have more games out, or I think they would have expected the route that they had taken to be more successful, and they've had to adjust. And I think the first thing you're going to cut there when you need to fix your key focus is your focus on your PSVR2, and I think it's almost suffered from that, and you hope as things stabilise and they might manage to find a little bit more focus for PSVR2. But as Jamie said, it's like plenty for people to jump in and enjoy, still stuff coming weekly almost. Like there's not many weeks go by that you don't get a new game on a headset, and you can usually find something that you really enjoy. And I think what's been the best thing about me, there's so many different types of games, and you see so many different people enjoying different types of games that it's not, I mean, obviously Reece and all these shite, and you're like, no more guns, come on. Whereas all the different like experiences that you just don't get out with VR have just been like great over the last couple of years.
Yeah, for sure. And like as you said, with like Sony supporting as a whole, it's a little bit of a weird one where them as a company right now, the whole PS5 generation has been, a lot of people kind of agree on, a little bit like not lackluster, because there are some amazing games and quite a lot of amazing games, but it's a fact that they've cut a lot back. We've seen so many studios get their projects cancelled. We've had Last of Us Factions gone. We've had I think it's Bend Studios game has been cancelled supposedly, and a couple of others. And while these aren't VR related, it's definitely showing like it's a symptom of the overall thing where it's the same company. And if they, we saw Fire Sprite, I think are they a lot of them laid off essentially a while ago. My memory fails me a bit there, but
London studio as well.
Yeah, exactly. It's like
don't remind me of that one. That one still hurts.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys are absolutely right. I think the whole video game industry in general is in a really weird space right now, because there was the COVID kind of expansion where we all got locked at home and had to play video games all the time. We just had to. There was no choice. And then after that, there was a huge big contraction, and then publishers just kind of panicked and think, we're just going to have to lay everyone off because the numbers are going down now. And that's led to, and at the same time, Sony's been going on this kind of live service journey, which they've then completely changed their minds on. So as a company, they've just been unsure of where they are. And you say the whole PS5 generation has been a bit stop-start and not really hit its groove. Even now, they're still releasing kind of as a Pro, and everyone's like, do we need a PS5 Pro? We don't. Oh, who's this for? Does it make sense? And I think a lot of it is people just trying to find stuff to talk about on stuff like this and on websites like IGN, because the PS5 is outselling the PS4. It certainly is making them far more money than the PS4 ever did, because it's so bloody expensive. So Sony are not in any trouble by any means, but I think you're absolutely right in that they haven't really kind of settled down and hit their groove and worked out what their strategy is, and partly probably because of Xbox and the whole ABK side has probably thrown them off their game as well, and just like trying to be panicking over what to do if they lose Call of Duty, which now obviously doesn't look like it's going to happen. Obviously Xbox has been having its same existential crisis of who they are and what they want to be in the market and stuff. And so, it's a funny old time. And so you've got to kind of look at PSVR2 in the context of everything that's going on. It's just such a real time of kind of change and evolution for the industry.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, it's one of the ones where, again, there are so many games, especially towards like usually like the March time, and then also at the end of the year, where like we have a kind of an uptick in great games coming to the platform. And most of the time, it's not from like Sony funded places. I mean, Sony don't really fund that much to do with PSVR2 in terms of games. Like we've had Synapse was a great one, and it's been a big gap since then. And but that doesn't mean that we haven't had great games like Behemoth, like Alien, Metro to kind of fill in that. And those are like big games that people, general just flat screen gamers, are excited about as well. So definitely isn't like when I get people kind of commenting saying that we've had nothing that there's really kind of made their interest perk up, that's what confuses me a little bit. Because there definitely has been a lot. Even at the start of this year, Arcane Age was one that like a lot of people really loved, and so did I. Like that was brilliant.
Yeah, it blew people off their feet, really, didn't it?
Yeah, really well made game.
Yeah, I mean, we've been saying that this year, start of the year, was a total surprise with No More Rainbows and Arcane Age. For me, I was like, wow, these are two absolutely fantastic things. I was not expecting to. Obviously, we knew a bit more about Arcane Age beforehand, but I was totally blown away by No More Rainbows. So there is always stuff coming out for it that's worth playing, and I think it's at the point now, after 2 years in the market, there are genuinely, depending on the sort of things you'd like, but I could make a kind of long list of a good 30 games. I think these are all really quality games at least, and that's it could be longer than that. But I think if people are being picky, I'd say pick 30 games, and then probably you could discount if you don't like certain genres, maybe just whittle that list down. But I think for me, for a normal person who just goes out and buy a video game system, if you could pick 20 games for it to play, like, well, how many games people don't need that many games to play on stuff. It's only really the real hardcore people. I think 20 games is like more than enough to justify buying some hardware for and buying into that ecosystem.
Yeah, completely agree.
And that's me being picky. I think you could. There's hundreds of games on there now, and all of them will have some merit to some people. I'm just being kind of real. There are kind of 20 or 30 really like I think I would happily recommend those games to people confident that they would play them and enjoy them and find a lot to love in them. That's not to say there aren't dozens of more games that would sort of be more like the kind of 6 and 7 out of 10 sort of experiences. So there's still so much more to play on it beyond that. But I think there is a sort of critical mass of games now that really justify buying into the system.
Yeah, and I'd also say, like, with how the storefront is on PlayStation, I'd say that's a huge pro in itself, like with finding games. Like, from Steam's store with finding VR games, that's always been a joke. Like, I don't think I've ever come across a VR game I went, oh, I'm going to look at that because it looks interesting. I've always had to use Twitter or any other social media thing, whereas PlayStation, you scroll through and you're like, oh, that game looks pretty cool, I'll take a look at that. It's so much easier without you having to browse for games itself. Whereas, like, again, now with how the Quest store is as well, that's just kind of, that's a joke on its own. So it's good to have a store that works. You can find these games really quickly. And like you said, there is a lot of hidden stuff on there. There's a lot of good games.
Yeah, I think I don't want to get into talking about the Quest. We'll save that for another week. And I'll give my thoughts on it.
That'll take too long.
But I think what I really like about playing on Quest for the first time in the last few weeks has made me realise for the PSVR2, it is such a pure games machine. There isn't any of the other stuff you get on Quest, and some people might see that as a bad point, but it's a focused device that just does one thing and does it really well. And I think if you're looking to play games, I still think that PSVR2 is the better option if that's all you're really interested in. And yeah, there's plenty of them.
Yeah, I 100%, and I think that reflects in the in kind of the audience that the headset has as well, because we've seen, especially, like, that's a great point with the store that you brought up with, like, the fact that it's so easy to kind of go through and browse, and we have an audience that does that, and will buy, even though there are less PSVR2 sold than, say, Quest, there are some games we've seen perform better on one platform like the PSVR2 because of the audience that it's catering to, which is purely gaming. Like, it's
Exactly.
I was speaking in a little, like, a retrospective video today about it, and it was like, yeah, this is just a gaming device, really. We're lacking a lot of features in content consumption and movie watching, which hopefully they'll rectify at some point, like 3D movies, for example. But if you just want to play games that are on the headset, your Gran Turismo, Resident Evil, Pavlov, it's you can't really go wrong. It's just plug and play, and it's so great for that. And even now, there isn't really an alternative that is this simple anywhere else, to be honest.
That's one thing I've said a lot as well, is the convenience of using the PSVR2 for high fidelity gaming in that sense. I'd opt for that over playing the same game on PC.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the convenience is a real key point of it. And again, I'm not going to keep talking about Quest, but but you are the confusion on that with the kind of Horizon Worlds and what you just kind of, all the games get mixed in with everything else. Whereas on PSVR2, that is just, it's really easy to find the games in it because that's all there is, right? And you're finding those games, and I think they do a better job than Meta actually spotlighting the good ones. And if you just look on if you have a PS Plus Premium subscription, you're getting a dozen or so really good games to start off with. So if you don't know where to start, you've got that collection now on PlayStation Plus. So anyone picking up a headset, you'd be absolutely mad not to sign up to at least kind of a 3-month PS Plus Premium package, and you've just got such a great range of different experiences and games and different styles of genres and stuff on there.
Still in the store.
Yeah, that's the thing. We've got, like, the tools for the store to easily go through, and I'm not on the higher tiers of PS Plus Premium, mostly because, like, a lot of the games I own, so sure, I'm not really that exposed to it. But now that you brought that up, it's like, I want to say there's, like, Synapse, Kayak VR or two that come to mind, and they're, like, experiences that
Saints and Sinners.
Yeah, Saints and Sinners as well. Like, their day one experiences, like Kayak and Saints and Sinners, as soon as I got the headset and I went on those for the first time, it was like that wow moment, especially compared to the PSVR 1. That I think a lot of people will definitely have if they're subscribed to those higher tiers. So that's a really good point. Yeah.
And I think still, again, these were kind of day one experiences, so it's not ideal that we're still talking about them now. Yeah. But I think it's still, I still haven't seen, though, in kind of the world of VR since, anything that can kind of go shoulder to shoulder with Gran Turismo 7 or Call of the Mountain or Resident Evil 4 or Village. They are just on a different level to other stuff.
Got one.
Which one?
Red Matter 2. You didn't say. How could you forget Red Matter 2?
Well, I'm talking kind of those big kind of AAA,
the big AAA stuff.
experiences like Red Matter.
I mean, that thing might as well have been.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a fair point. Red Banner and Red Banner 2 are definitely on my list of 20 or 30 games that easily recommends. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's still the only place you can play those really high fidelity, big Sony games. Stuff like well, not Resident Evil, it's Capcom obviously, but the your Gran Turismos and Horizons.
Yeah, and we hope there's more of that in the works. That looking ahead towards a potential third, fourth year. I mean, there are two big ones which a lot of people talk about, which is Resident Evil 9, and that's like your potentially open world from what people are saying. So it's a bit of a question mark whether that'll be VR compatible, but hopefully. And then Ace Combat 8 is another one where Shuhei has talked about it in the past, even though obviously he's left Sony now. But he talked about it in the past with the Ace Combat devs saying that they were probably going to head into VR for the next iteration of Ace Combat. So that's another one that, potentially if that drops, that would be massive. And same with Resident Evil 9. They're games that move headsets.
So do you think those are the two games then? Because there was talk of they were winding back their VR development and they were just going to be making 2 titles. And I think when that news broke on the show, we were like, well, 2 is amazing. That's 2 more than I expected them to be making, to be honest. So, and we still haven't seen those games. So at some point they'll emerge, and you have to assume like should still make at least one other game after the launch window. You've got to be something else in the, even if it's in year kind of 3 or year 4 or whenever it is. They must have been expecting to support the headset for a good kind of 5 years at least.
Yeah, you'd hope so. It's a bit of a weird one. Like I remember going back and looking at the opening years for PSVR1, and it was kind of a similar story. Not as dry in terms of Sony support, but I think it was like a pretty solid first year, an okay second year. And then towards the end of the headset's kind of life cycle, the mid to end point was when we got quite a few projects. And I don't really know if it'll be as intensive as that towards the end. I don't think it will, just because of the nature of games development and also the expectations of VR players now. Because back then, you could put together a PlayStation VR Worlds, and that would be enough for people to get the headset because they wanted to experience the 20-minute shock encounter.
That's a really good point. Yeah.
I mean, I'd still be happy with a VR Worlds to feature like 20 minutes of, God of War, Last of Us, and a few other,
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Jamie. Sorry.
No, I'd be happy with that.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
But you're right, that novelty has worn off, and people are expecting those bigger things, and Sony are like, just what you're expecting, we can't justify funding. So it's kind of it's a bit of a chicken and egg situation. It's like, well, we want to make these games, but there's not a big enough audience, and it's like, well, the way you get that bigger audience is to make those games, and it's like, well, you kind of expect as the platform holder to burn money on this stuff, like Meta are doing with Batman and paying for stuff like Assassin's Creed to be exclusive. You kind of just have to sink the cash into it, and that's obviously Sony are not in a position to do that.
I think that's why they just need to go over to Valve and say, hello, Half-Life Alyx, do it, please.
Take this money.
Just
support it.
Yeah.
Been great there. It's all people care about there on PCVR, right? Let's just take it.
Yeah, well, there's not many people are buying the PCVR headsets, and was it the Vive? Is that their one?
I don't think many people go out of the door just to buy a Vive these days. They're still like close to $1,000. There's no real need anymore to buy a Vive
and all that.
Yeah,
I mean, Valve have got their own plans for their next generation of VR. I think it's looking to go that way. But I think, go on, Laurie.
I was going to say, no one's not, bringing Half-Life Alyx over is not going to lose them sales elsewhere. It's just going to make them more money. So
exactly. Yeah, and that's one of the ones where hopefully, if I had to put out a wild prediction for the anniversary tomorrow, if they do say anything, or I guess I don't know when the episode's going live, but
so it's Tuesday. It's going to be going out this one. So we're recording this on Friday. The 3-year anniversary is tomorrow. So this episode might be really out of date by the time it comes out.
And then if you're right, we'll just get you to record a clip. Like I told you, okay, and we'll just get you to that, and we'll add it on.
Yeah, like a completely out there suggestion would be like something like Alyx being like, okay, it's coming to the platform, but the more mundane kind of announcements would just be the updates on the games we already know, like Wanderer, like Hitman, a bit more gameplay there, like Aces of Thunder, which still would be exciting. But I just kind of wish that they would kind of go all out and just be like, we've got one of the biggest games that is highly rated on Steam, and now we've got it here. I mean, it was even on the promotional images for the PC adapter, so they know it exists. They got that JPEG and they put it on there, so they know it exists.
They know it exists. So
someone's played it.
Yeah.
And what do you think, Jeremy? Because it seems like we were talking last week about the future for PSVR2 could increasingly be these hybrid games, and that if you're a developer with making these increasingly expensive games, paying people increasingly high salaries to make them, you think, well, let's make it a hybrid game. And that's kind of something that only PlayStation can offer, really, because it's hard to offer PCVR. But that's kind of potentially a really strong point. If you can play games in both flat and VR, and just depending on what mood you're in, you can switch between them. Obviously, we know Dreams of Another, we know Midnight Walk. That, for me, would be my assumption, is that if we do get any more Sony games, they'll design them as hybrid games. There'll be something that will just work in both.
Yeah, I think that's where like your Ace Combats and your Resident Evil 9s would fit right in with that, because you're not going to kick out any flat screen players because they've still got a really polished experience they can go in and play. But if they want to be really immersed in it, then they can go and buy the headset. So I think that would work really well. And again, like I think games like Horizon Call the Mountain, I really loved, but there are a lot of flat screen gamers who like the flat screen franchise who just wouldn't be bothered in buying a VR headset for it. And you know, it might be the same. I feel like Last of Us or God of War would ship a bit more, move a bit more, because that's a bit more cultural impact. But there still will be those people who prefer a flat screen. So for Sony right now, it's definitely a smart move to go for both rather than just for the more niche of the two, if they can.
Yeah, it's hard because those kind of over-the-shoulder third-person action adventures that Sony love to make, it's hard to see those working particularly well in VR. You've got, obviously, your 3D and third-person games like Astrobot, but generally it's a kind of first-person experience. And Sony don't tend to make many first-party games anymore. I'm trying to think, like Resistance, Call of Man, that would be a great VR.
Many first-party games anymore, Laurie. Never
Well,
mind.
indeed, yeah.
First-party, it's like...
Yeah. Slowing down everyone. Maybe they'll make a Call of the Mountain 2. There you go. They could just do that. Just reuse 80% of the assets. Just change some of the grappling hooks you got, and boom, you got a sequel sorted.
Well, my prediction still goes that we're going to get an Astro's Rescue mission port across, maybe with a few extra levels added on there.
That'd be amazing.
They love making extra levels for the Astrobot game, so why not make some for the
I feel like if that's one that's not been announced by the time this episode comes out, that doesn't happen. Because I think that's our second anniversary announcement, if ever I had one, if it's actually going to happen.
But you said it the first year as well, didn't you?
I'm pretty sure I probably
we've been saying
did,
it all along.
Yeah.
But Astrobot is just such a big thing now, and they're not going to make another Astrobot game for another, well, probably the rest of the generation, to be honest. And maybe it'll be a PS4 launch, or we're talking about PS6 launch title. So it's going to be a good 4 years until that comes out. So you've got another Astrobot game that hardly anyone's played sat right there. Just bring that across, and I don't know, could that work as a hybrid game? Could that?
Yes.
Yeah. So, like what a great way to do it. And maybe if they do it on a hybrid game, then maybe it skips a year and they do it the year after next, just so they could kind of keep the Astro franchise relevant and just make it sort of eke out a bit further.
Yeah.
Bridge the gap between the next game, assuming it's like 4 years off.
I think they could definitely do something like that. Like, I'm trying to think back to, like, I think it's the second anniversary of PSVR 1 was the Borderlands VR announcement.
Yes, that was correct.
That was one that's like, if we got something like that tomorrow, that's just, we had no idea was coming. And we usually have no idea these things are coming, to be fair. Sony are usually pretty good at keeping everything sealed. But yeah, it could be nothing tomorrow. It could be something big like that. It could be a port, could be Wipeout or something like that. A game that we really love. That'd be amazing.
That's the thing. Just port these games, because there were so many. PSVR 1 had loads of great games, but they were kind of limited by the hardware. So you could presumably, I know nothing about this, but presumably you could port them across. The game's already there. You just need to do the port rather than create a new game from scratch. And obviously, people want new games, but people would sell for just ported, enhanced versions of games they loved on PSVR 1. And sure, the PSVR 1 community would probably get pissed off that they're just getting the same game again served up to them. But Nintendo have shown with all the Wii U ports that came to Switch, people will happily buy them again. So why not do it? And then there's people like me and Alex who have never played these games and would love to, would buy them on day one.
Yeah, like Wipeout, Riggs, Mechanized Combat League was another one I loved. Eve Valkyrie was really cool. There's so many games.
Riggs is not my first. It's the first VR game that gave me a little bit of motion sickness, actually, because I wasn't used to the movement. And I played Resident Evil prior to that, but yeah, Riggs I would like to try it now with proper controllers.
Is it Farpoint as well with a gun?
Yes.
Farpoint, fantastic game.
Amazing game, yeah. And again, you see Resident Evil 7 as well.
I want Blood and Truth. I don't. They do a sequel. Yeah. Just give me a port to it. I've been wanting to play it again, but I just don't want to hook up the old PSVR 1 to do it.
It's a lot wise. It's a
Yeah,
lot
it
of
is,
pain.
yeah. She's strangled in the wires by the end of it.
But I mean, if you're Sony and you think that we can't justify making any new games for this thing, there's not a big enough pool of people to be able to buy the game. Okay, but why not then just justify porting over half a dozen of these really good VR games that deserve that? You know, the medium is new and evolving, and these games need another chance to update them. You know, we're seeing that with Wanderer, with people remaking games entirely just a few years later. I'm not saying they need to remake them games, even just port them across, just give them another chance to have that audience and just to keep the market going, because VR as a market, as a medium, needs that support. It needs that nurturing, and for really good games to be stuck on a system that no one is going to be bothered about playing because it's too much of a faff to set up, just a few years after they release, it's just a really sad state of affairs, really.
Yeah, and we've even got like some features on PSVR 1 that aren't on the successor. Like a big one for me that I almost brought up when we were in the pre-show talking about this was 3D movies. Like that's something on PSVR 1 that was really, really cool. But it was added after launch, if I remember right. So
I can't remember.
I think it was after it was like requested for a while. I could be wrong on that though. So
All I know is it made me go out and buy a lot of secondhand 3D movies just to watch, and I found it a very good experience.
That could be a great announcement for tomorrow. At the anniversary. Just there you go. Here's an update. You can now watch 3D films. I mean, I'm always going to want for that something more of that theater style environment like big screen VR has, which is just like unreal. Even if it's because of like rights issues, even if you can't share that environment with anybody else, just a sense of place would be amazing. So to sit instead of that black void that you sit in when you open up the PSVR2 for whatever game you're playing. Like I think that would be really cool. And even like Minecraft on PSVR 1 had a little environment you could sit there and play the game in if you didn't want to go in full VR.
A block sofa, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You see that on the Apple Vision Pro thing where people can watch the Star Wars Mandalorian on Tatooine and in a virtual world and stuff. That's just so cool.
It's ridiculous that the Vision Pro, like fidelity wise, is nuts, and those like environments, especially big screen does it as well, where the screen you're watching on actually has the light come off it and bounce off the environment that you're in. So if you're in a cinema, it'll bounce off the walls on the ceiling and everything will light up if the screen's really bright, and it just makes it feel like you're actually in that place a little bit more. And it kind of puts me off watching films on my PSVR2 on PS5 because it's just that void. Just get rid of the void. Something.
But sorry, I was just saying, even as simple as giving us like a native PSVR2 homepage. Yeah. Like it's that void.
Such
that
a
was
little
like,
request
just something
as well.
that would just wrap round you, or just deflatten it, or like something, and just give it a bit of a curve, or just give it something.
Yeah, I remember the Vita's menu where it was all those little pebbles that bounced around in a 3D kind of style.
But this is the thing, the headset's got eye track. Just do it so it's like a 360 thing, and you just kind of move your eyes, and then you close your eyes to open the app or something like that. They can certainly do something like that if they wanted to make it use that, the actual capabilities of the headset as well. They always want to try and throw that off, don't they? Oh, we've got eye tracks.
The overall user experience for stuff like that is it's always been lacking on PSVR2, and it's something, just thinking about it now, little things like being able to view a friend's share screen and kind of pin it in your virtual environment and just kind of keep it there or something like that. So say if you're driving on Gran Turismo, you can put somebody's gameplay of them playing Last of Us or whatever, if you're in a party with them on your dash or something cool like that. That's a little bit more advanced, but just a menu that's made with a headset. There's not much.
They don't ask for a lot.
Just going back to talking about the movies part. The thing that's just mad is that on PS Plus now you have that Sony Pictures benefit if you're on one of the tiers, and you could just watch all those. They are a film studio as well as a game developer. And they've got all these films, and loads of them are in 3D. Why not give chance people? They've got all the ingredients they need. Just
it's
make it work. The the hardware can do it clearly. So just make it happen, make it work. It's crazy. That'd be great. I mean, looking ahead to what year 3 brings, the games we know about, then the sort of big games. So far, we've got Hitman: Word of Assassination coming next month in March. We've got the Midnight Walk on May the 8th. And we've got Five Nights at Freddy's: Secret of the Mimic on June the 13th. Although no one knows if that is actually a VR game. Jamie, do you know? Do you know
that? I think the last I heard, and this is my source is I might not be right.
Trust me,
it's coming.
bro.
Yeah, it's my trusty bro. I think it's coming later.
Okay.
From what I last heard, but I could be wrong, so don't quote me on that.
Well, that's kind of what I assumed. If they're kind of in out, it's like surely it must be coming at some point because otherwise they would never have said it in the first place. But maybe it's just not guaranteed for that date. So those are the 3 big games we know with dates, and then you've got Wanderer, no date on that. Aces of Thunder, Zombie Army VR, Ghosts of Tabor, and Dreams of Another. I mean that Wanderer. There's a huge April-sized gap in the lineup there. That Wanderer, I feel like.
One of the
in
websites
the Discord,
put a date on it for the physical edition. It was late April.
Oh, okay.
Well,
there you go.
I don't think there's no official date yet.
Yeah, no official date yet. I mean, that's one we could see tomorrow. If Sony make a blog post, like it's a very easy one to go. Here's another trailer. Here's some more stuff that they're doing in the game, and here's a date. There you go. Yeah.
Hopefully, it wouldn't get delayed this time.
Yeah.
And a load of people will be like,
Again.
there's no games here. But I'm sorry, like Hitman, Midnight Walk, and Wanderer, they are 3 quality titles that are, again, a reason that will keep people playing the headset. And I've not mentioned all the dozens of games that I probably don't even know about that are going to come out in the coming months as well to keep playing on. But I think even if you're just going to ignore all those indie games, like a lot of idiots do, there's 3 or 4 big games there that I mentioned just coming out in the first half of the year that are reasons to keep putting the headset on.
Yeah, I mean, Hitman's a really, really big one. That's, I mean, we're seeing that at the game showcase in early March on the 11th. We're seeing a bit more of, which it doesn't confuse me a little bit, but like the game's coming out only like 2 weeks or so, or 3 weeks or so after that. So whether they want to have one last little marketing push before then, or if there's a little delay, I don't know anything. But I'd hate there to be a delay. But a little part of me does want there to be a delay because I'm out of the country when it comes out, so I'm just like stuck. But we'll see. It's a really big one though. I've got a lot of flat screen people that I know who are interested in that because it's a game they really love.
Yeah,
and it's huge, that game as well.
Third attempt. We can get it right this time, right? They can do it.
So the last PSVR2 game that I was away from home for the launch for was Firewall Ultra, so it's not a great track record. But
oh god,
yeah, you might as well just stayed away forever for that one, mate. Yeah, shouldn't even tried it.
So, well, we can look back in a year's time then and see how it went. And I think it's not. There's certain people that are just instantly thinking, yeah, it's dead. The last day of play showed that they completely abandoned it. Sell it now, waste of time. I don't think it's anything like as bad as that. Obviously,
no.
Everyone could hope for more support from Sony, but then you can say that about the PS5 itself. So I think there's loads to play on it. There's loads of stuff that came out recently to play on it. I'm sure most people haven't played all of yet, and there's stuff coming out over the next few months to play on it. So let's see what happens this weekend if we do get a blog post and update to celebrate the 2nd year. I think for me, this final point, what I think the headset really needs is just someone like
controllers. Oh, sorry.
That's not what I was going to say. It's a Shuhei Yoshida type person, just someone who's like, I'm the head of PSVR2 and here's what I want to tell you. No, just someone who can kind of speak to the community and just reassure people that, yeah, we still are committed to VR. We've got stuff in development. We can't share it yet, or we wish we could be more, but this is, realistically what we can do.
Yeah.
But just someone like a figurehead. And again, Sony don't really have that at all for, they've got a few people now, but they're a very kind of closed organization now. They're not really talking to people in the way the fans want. But I feel like someone who can just speak to the fans and just kind of almost kind of present their kind of VR blogs, and just someone that is a recognizable figure that can be interviewed and can just give the community some insights to Sony's thinking on VR would be ideal at this point.
Yeah, like even it's a symptom of like what's going on both the creator and the audience side of things, because Sony are a company, like if you compare them to say Meta, which is kind of an unfair comparison because Meta's thing is all VR and they spend a lot of money on VR and they spend a lot of time and resources on creators in VR. But I never really talked about it before, but Sony is it's a very closed wall environment. You can speak to the indie devs, and that's where the most kind of progress comes from in terms of talking about what's happening in the future and what's going on. I think our first indication of there being hand tracking in the SDK was from an indie dev going, they've added something cool, but I don't want to ruin my NDA, basically. but there's nothing from Sony. Even when hand tracking fully came out, I don't think they even officially acknowledged that, apart from like patch notes.
They did. They put out a post at PlayStation UK. I think PlayStation US put out a post on Twitter, but it was like an hour or 2 hours, or maybe even the next day after Walks of the Wizard put out their stuff. So it was
not much fanfare.
It's quite humorous, to be fair, the way it's done.
So it's just, it leaves a lot to be desired in many stages, but oh well, it's just how it is. We're used to it.
Yeah,
for sure. Cool. Well, let's leave that one there and let's move on to discussing the rest of the week's news. We're talking about what's coming in year 3, and maybe we'll find out some more about what's coming in year 3 on the Game Showcase, which has been dated now for March the 11th. They put out an update on that, so it's coming March the 11th, and it's going to be featuring Hitman, as we just mentioned. Also a game called RoboQuest, Wrath, Aeon of Ruin, and also further new reveals from Flat to VR as well. So I'm sure we'll all be watching that one.
100%.
Joey, you're out of the country for it?
No, I'm here. I'm going on the 20th. I'm in Japan for like 3 weeks, so I literally
nice. Flex, he just drops in there. Like
I got
It's gonna
family
see
there, so
Sony.
it's a little cheaper than it would be.
amazing.
Because it's
Cool.
it's far, and the time zone is just all wrong. So anything that happens, I'll be asleep for. So. But yeah,
okay.
the showcase is before then, luckily. So I'll probably be on a stream somewhere for that, because it was great last time. Like they
It
put on
was,
such a good
wasn't it?
show.
Yeah, it was.
So.
I think the last show there was no. I don't know. There was a few PSVR2 games, but very, very little PSVR2.
Yeah, we had like
coverage, so.
the Flat to VR stuff. And that was
Yeah,
pretty much, did we have Vendetta Forever as well? Maybe.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
I
but
think
even
Half
still,
a Gun was mentioned on one of them as well. I think it
Yeah.
might have been the second one.
That was the indie one, I think.
Yeah, but at least they had something in it as well.
but yeah, I have a Quest now, so I'm more excited for play everything that gets revealed this time.
Oh, have you? We haven't heard.
Yeah. No, I mentioned it. So that's cool. New game coming to PSVR2 is Smash Drums. Great name for a game. Just very
Great
Great
game.
game.
Descriptive.
It's a
It's
great game.
fantastic.
great game, great name. Yeah, do we have a date on this one?
No, just 2025. They haven't confirmed
Oh.
release window yet.
There you go. Add that to the year 3 lineup. Smash
There you go.
Drums.
Well, again, we might know that by the time this episode comes out. That could be something in the blog post, because I don't think Sony have actually said anything about it themselves, have they? No.
True. Yeah, it's such a big question mark over what they're going to talk about. But maybe we'll hear something. Who knows?
That's Smash Drums. Talking of drums, we've also got Drums Rock has added some Linkin Park DLC, which is exciting.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone else with Linkin Park in their VR games.
Yeah, it's a good band, Beat Saber, to be fair.
Yeah, the Beat Saber pack is so good for that.
Yeah,
The Mike Shinoda one's good as well.
I'll go see Linkin Park in a few months' time, so maybe I need to download Beat Saber and the Linkin Park pack just to get me really in the mood for it. But yeah. Another game coming to PSVR2 is called Space Drop. That's coming in July. Game currently on Quest and PCVR.
I've played that.
You've played this one, have you?
Yeah, you literally drop in space.
Yeah, this kind of like
Like,
the skydiving game.
Skydiving,
in
and you go
space.
through these, and you go through basically you're skydiving, and it's quite the speed's hitting you, and you're avoiding obstacles on the way down.
Does it feel better if you lay on the floor and play it? Like you look cool. I'm gonna give it a go.
Yeah, that's quite cool. Another game coming this year, we've got Monster Snap been revealed. This is coming to Quest 3 in the first quarter of the year, and then there's going to be PC, PSVR, and flat versions. Oh, another hybrid game coming later in the year as well. So this is basically Pokemon Snap, but in VR. So that sounds pretty cool.
Just watch the Pokemon Company come and say, "No, you're not having that."
You can't have that. It's too. You've got a camera and you're taking picture of stuff.
Of monsters, yeah, that's the thing. I don't think they are little. I think it's more you're going around trying to take pictures of Bigfoot or the monster
like
rather
cryptid
than
stuff.
Pokemon. Yeah, it's quite cool. So keep an eye on that one. Final bit of news, 2 bits of news, not the nicest bits of news. Toast Interactive has suffered severe layoffs. They've basically gone down to a skeleton crew of people on that game. They had to lay everyone off on that studio, which is obviously very, very sad to hear. Max Mustard, fantastic game. Deserves all the success that it got and all the accolades that it got. So that's a real shame to hear that one.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it kind of says something, I guess, when a game that's as highly rated as that, as unfortunately the studios had to go through that. But they really did deserve that because it's just fantastic.
Yeah.
It's such a good PSVR2 port as well. That's the only version of the game I played,
One
obviously.
of the
but
best.
yeah,
One of the
it's
best ports.
fantastic. And I mean, I think they're still planning on porting Richie's Plank experience.
Yes, they did respond to
yeah.
somebody and said it's still in the, it's still something they're going to be doing. It's just,
Yeah.
probably a bit slower now. But
I mean, I guess, these small studios, if they don't have another project, it's quite normal in going. If they don't have work for people to do, they'll lay them off, and then presumably the people that are left will start working on a new game, hopefully, and then maybe they'll start to hire and ramp back up again. It's just the brutal nature of video game development. I'm actually got it here on my desk, Blood, Sweat and Pixels by Jason Schreier at the moment, and it's a fantastic book, but it just shows you just how fucking hard making video games is, and how you're just constantly going from feast or famine. Every game is just potentially your last game. And so, with the state of VR development as it is, and indie development as it is, if your team grows to a certain size, you need to keep people expect and command good salaries in these positions, and you need to have money coming in to pay those salaries all the time. Otherwise, you have to let people go, and it's just the kind of brutal reality of it if you don't have a huge publisher that's willing to bankroll you. Which obviously a company like Toast wouldn't have had. I hope they can scale back up again as soon as possible.
Fingers crossed.
Hopefully so.
And another one, which I don't know if this is bad news or unrealistic expectations, but Metro Awakening apparently underperformed. And this is, what's the name? The
Embracer.
Embracer.
The one.
I was trying to think Involver, but Embracer. It underperformed their expectations for that game, and obviously there was a very well marketed, got a big push, lots of exposure on conferences and things, and it was released to everywhere, Quest and PSVR2 and PC VR as well.
Yeah, PC VR as well. Yeah, it's pretty much on everything. Yeah, but
yeah,
it's
a tough one.
Still underperformed their expectations.
I think it's unrealistic expectations again. I do.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily from if you look at the ratings on the PC store, the Quest store, and even PlayStation, it's got. I don't know. I mean, not everyone that buys a game rates the game they buy. Everyone knows that. But by looking at the numbers there, it's got a good amount of sales, and I believe even at one point it was at top sales on Quest. I think it was. So it did really well from if you're in the VR space and you see that perspective. I think it did really well. But I think it's a similar situation as how Ubisoft was with Assassin's Creed Nexus. You've ported this really big IP into VR, and you're going to expect,
everyone's shot for it.
Yeah, exactly. You ain't going to expect anyone to miss this. But sadly, obviously, quite a lot did miss it, and to them, they wanted more, and it's just, not going to happen.
It was listed as one of the main revenue drivers for the quarter that it came out in, I think, for Embracer. But it's still, even if it was there, it's still underperformed for what they expected. And I agree completely. I think it's more of an issue of a publisher or whoever is higher up with that publisher thinking we can just put it into this medium, everyone's going to accept it, it's going to perform like a regular entry. So that's not going to happen. So
it's just lack of understanding of the market. It's I think exactly as you say there, Jamie. They expected it to do the same as one of the flat installments, and that's never going to happen no matter how many platforms you spread it against. And I feel like we're getting the same stories all the time about not meeting expectations. Nothing meets expectations these days, but it's because the expectations are far too high to begin with.
Yeah, it's a common story we're hearing over and over again, isn't it? And it's just why did you ever think it was going to sell that much? Given there are so many games that come out, and it came out in a really busy quarter. And there's so many games that just monopolise people's times really brutally. Then you just have to. There is a limited number of people that are able to buy games, and that's part of the problem with the industry at the moment in general. But this one for me, I was like, why didn't they? If they wanted more sales for it, why didn't they just make it a hybrid game? And if they'd have positioned it properly and just told flat players that don't think of this as kind of a full entry. This is more of a kind of a 1.5 entry or a kind of. And if they priced it,
it's a prequel entry. So,
exactly. Yeah, or a minus 0.5. If they priced it accordingly, so people say, okay, this isn't going to be a full full game. Although it is a good kind of, what is it, 8-hour campaign? So,
Yeah,
Yeah,
8 to 10 hours. Yeah,
Yeah.
depending how slow you take it, you know.
So I mean, if they'd price it accordingly, people will think, well, okay, I understand what this is. This is a VR game, and we can play it on flat as well. It's not been designed as the next full entry in the series. It is more of a spin-off, and then that would have just greatly increased the market for it. And it's the sort of game when you play it, you're thinking this could be a flat game quite easily.
That's it. Although there's not many parts of the game where they've had to dumb down what you see in a traditional Metro entry. Maybe compared to, say, the more recent ones like Exodus, which is like a sprawling open world, lots of gameplay opportunities. If you go back to like even the remakes of like Redux in 2033, Last Light, like it's basically there's some more outside segments, which it was a big like pain point for me of Awakening. I would have loved to visit outside. But like, yeah, it could have passed as a flat screen game if you had converted it back, and obviously some tweaks have had to been made. But there's also, I think, maybe Embracer wanted to keep it in its own lane, I guess, because they don't want to interrupt anything in terms of the build-up for the next mainline Metro entry, which we know is like well into development now. But again, I think if they just said, yeah, this is a prequel, it's a hybrid game, if you want more Metro, if you want to know about this character that's in the later games a little bit more, and revisit the world in a new entry that's a spin-off, then it would have been fine. It's just confusing. Yeah.
And I think, Laurie, you also made a very good point. I feel like, well, it came out in a very busy quarter, and I feel like Behemoth, Metro, and Alien all stood on each other's toes, and in hindsight, probably regret it. Like, spread them a few months to maybe 2 months apart, each one, you're going to get more sales, or at least you're going to get more full price sales. These games will still sell, maybe they'll have a longer tail because people have picked up maybe 1 rather than 3, but they're going to then benefit from waiting and getting a sale on them, and they're therefore lower revenue. But it just felt really silly for those 3 big games to come out so close together.
100%.
Like I still this last week I've gone back and covered like the Alien update that they just did to the game and the Behemoth update they just did to the game, and in both videos there are quite a few comments saying that they missed this because you could have just waited, and also they missed it because they went and bought Metro instead, or likewise with Metro they missed that because they had bought Behemoth in the same time period, or they bought Alien in the same time period. Especially with the price of them, like they are obviously a lot less than the normal AAA flat screen games that we get, so it's a little bit easier on the wallet there, but it's still not like really cheap.
Yeah, they're not cheap games.
No, in terms of a VR game, I'd say that they're the upper tier, aren't they? Really, but it's a shame at the end of the day. I think, because it begs the question now whether they'll decide whether to do more of Play-On's games and embrace.
At least Alien is going to keep going as well. That's the only one.
Alien's a good sign of that happening, but I mean,
the other two.
Yeah, like I still want like a Dead Island in VR, but obviously if that's what's happened to Metro, it's probably unlikely they're going to go, make this. So it's that's always the concern when these type of things happen. You go, okay, it's that type of thing again, but it is what it is, isn't it? Really,
it
was
is
a bloody good game, though. Okay, so just go play it.
Right, well, talking about going and playing things, should we just finish off the episode? Just talk about some of the things we've been playing this week.
Yes.
Go on then, Reece. You're so keen.
I played Tier 1. It went into early access. Right, does anyone want to go next? You can all carry on. No. Avoid it. Without being incredibly mean or anything like that. Yes, it is in early access, but this is a game that's meant to have some skilled developers, and I'm talking about it because it's meant to be coming to PSVR2 eventually. It's just not good. There's too many other good shooters out there for you to go pick up to want to give this one a chance. I think it's on day one there was literally 2 servers up within the space we've been on for 20 minutes. Everyone dwindled and disappeared. And since then I've known about 3 people that have jumped on to try and go play it again, and still no one's playing it. This game has been out for now 24 hours and it's already dead by the seams of it. So it's a shame because I was really hyped for it. They geared it up as this cool tactical shooter, and sadly not. So
I'd never heard of this game. I just googled it, and it comes up as multiplayer VR tactical shooter, and I'm like, yep, that's all I need to know. It's not for me.
I mean, we've said press releases and things like that of it, but you don't read those, Laurie. Anyways, it's good. It's like they said Onward, so as soon as you hear that, you're going to expect a really good shooter, but it just, no. Hopefully, by the time it reaches PSVR2, they fixed all the issues they've got with it, but we'll see. Maybe it might not even get to that point now, depending on how, it goes.
All right, well, that's tier 1. Jamie, what have you been up to?
My time in PSVR2 has been split a bit recently with, our friendly neighborhood Games with Tea has been spreading the word of Captain Toonhead around everywhere. So I played quite a bit of that. And really enjoyed my first tower defense game on PSVR2, and it's a very strong start in that genre because it's pretty fantastic gameplay wise. Its tone and its story aren't really what I'd usually enjoy.
They didn't fit you as much as they hit me,
No.
did they? Clearly, yeah.
But the gameplay really did. So that's been taking up a fair bit. I definitely recommend taking a look at that one.
I actually platinumed that last night.
Yeah.
I was carrying on playing that. Did the
Of
platinum.
course you did.
And the other two, two more well-known games. Phasmophobia just got its voice recognition update on PlayStation, so you can go in and speak to the ghosts now. Unfortunately, that also introduced a lot of crashing, but I think that should have been fixed today. But that's been really fun, being able to no longer have to use the awkward selector menus to speak on the
never
script
get that
box
to
and
work
stuff.
at first. That selector menu was horrendous. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't think mine and Alex's experience of it was great. I'd played the game so much more on PC that it's a point where it's like, it's a breeze just walking through it, and it doesn't have effect to me.
Mm-hmm.
And Alex playing it, who's not great at horror games either, was like, what is this? Is that it? Like, so it's quite shocking.
Yeah,
No, as I've said before, the only funny thing about that was the other people who were playing with screaming like that.
Andreas, bless him. That was hilarious.
Yes, it's just come out with that voice recognition, which you do have to turn on in the settings as to when you get into the game. But that's been pretty fun. I think Phasmophobia definitely is one though that after like 60 hours of game time or whatever, you become desensitized to it, and they are working on that. I think it's next year, which is quite a way away, where we're getting like a full horror overhaul. But I still find a lot of fun with it. But it's kind of like after a point, it becomes more of an investigation game rather than a horror game.
Yeah, I think it's more that anyway. But I also agree with that type of game. It definitely, the people you play with really do make it. But I would agree. After 60 hours, and I'd probably say I've got probably 40 or 50 on the PC, and it just does nothing to me now.
No, it's just in VR. Occasional moments do surprise me, especially now with voice recognition. If you say the ghost name, it might pop up and scare you, but after another week, that'll go away because I'll be used to it. And then aside from Phasmo, just Gran Turismo 7 is one I always go back to. I don't have my steering wheel set up here because I'm studying at the moment, but still, it's great with a controller. Recommend it with a controller. The latest update added some great cars, and it's just it's one of the evergreen games, like No Man's Sky. You can just go back to because they always add to it, and it's always a load of fun.
It's never not impressive as well. You experience that, Alex?
I mean, I've been playing a made-up game, haven't I, Laurie?
Yes,
I've been playing a game.
So do I, apparently.
I've been playing a game that comes out another few weeks before it comes out. I think it's early March. It's called Balls to the Ball. So it's a quest game. So I'm
Googling this.
Moving away from it, but it's essentially a match 3 puzzle game in mixed reality. But your left hand matches 3 in terms of your traditional puzzle, but then you have a ball gun in your right hand that you need to then shoot the ones that you've matched to get them to disappear. And I found that the gun really didn't aim very well, so it really spoiled the experience. Because this ticks a lot of boxes for it being an Alex game. This is the kind of shit I love. But I just did not have a fun experience with it at all, unfortunately. I'm hoping it is still early and there's maybe some tweaks to come before it actually releases, so I will try it again and get through it. But I think it's arcadey style, mixed reality. I think there's 20 levels to get through, and it's from what I've seen so far, it's just get a certain score to complete that level to get to the next one. Very simple, straightforward, but if the ball gun worked a little bit better, it would be far more enjoyable, unfortunately.
And I would recommend people Googling it, but when I typed in Balls to the Wall quest, it just brought up Cyberpunk 2077 and showed me how to do the quest called Balls to the Wall on it. So,
Balls to the Wall quest. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So now I know how to do that. That's good, but don't know anything about the game. So thanks, Alex.
Add VR in there.
That's a good idea, yeah. So I should have done that.
Well, the only thing I've been playing this week is also on the Quest. I've been playing Action Hero, and I've been properly enjoying my time with that. It's so funny.
What a workout as well, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it took me a while to kind of get the hang of it because I'm still getting my head around the fact you can move around more with greater kings and you kind of just expect it to be a bit more movement in it. And I was like, oh, I can dodge bullets. Actually, that's what you need to do. It's not a question of kind of shooting people before they can get a shot off. It's like, even if they get a shot off, it's actually quite simple to just, you do a squat or you just pivot or you move around and stuff. And it just, the sense of humor in this game, it's so funny. Jamie, if you've never played it, there's bits you like think, I haven't got any weapons. How am I gonna take these guys out? They're too far away to do anything with, and they're not running over to me, so I'm not going to have to punch them. And you keep dodging bullets. You think, what on earth am I going to do it? And then out of nowhere, just some raptors just jump out and just like attack them. And like, there's been no raptors in this scene that you've been filming. It's like, well, okay, right, okay, there's now raptors in this, and then there's a guy in a motorbike just like comes out of nowhere as well. It's all so massively over the top and silly and hilarious. And
Yeah, that sounds great.
I think there's 5 different movies, and each movie is broken down into, you're filming, I think, 5 different scenes from it, and you have to kind of piece them all together. And I think each scene is kind of like a checkpoint. In each scene, there are 4 or 5 different bits to it that you need to string together without taking any hits. And then once you do, you go on to the next scene in that movie. So it took me, you die a lot. But okay, so I need to be mindful of that bullet and then that bullet, and then I need to dodge that bullet, and then the more you do it, it doesn't get too frustrating because once you get good at the early level scenes, you get really quicker. You just grab the gun, boom, 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 on to the next one, and stuff that you might take you a few goes to work out. Once you've worked it out and it clicks, you can then do it again, in seconds and get up to the next bit. So it's so satisfying then when you finally memorize the sequence and you pull it all off in one seamless movement. You feel so badass, and it's so good. The slow motion of it's a super hot style game, so the slow motion of it works so well, and you can just grab guns out of there and just sort of swing around, shoot people, grab their guns. So it's a bit like that Vendetta Forever style approach to things as well. But I just found it really good fun. So definitely recommend that one, and I really hope it comes across to PSVR2.
Hopefully, yeah, that sounds really cool.
Hopefully so. Along with Mannequin.
Yeah.
Oh.
That needs to come across. They need to do that.
I've enjoyed that one. That's one I played on Steam for a bit, and it's properly fun. I think that could be really, really cool, especially with
good group of people.
Yeah,
It's hilarious. Yeah,
Band Hero as well, to be fair.
Yeah, we jumped on it a good few times.
Band Hero, is it called? Band Space?
Band Space, yeah. We jumped on Mannequin quite a few times as a group, and it was always a good laugh. Band Space, that's a top tier game. You need that.
So yeah, that's it from for me and what I've been playing. Maybe we'll need to come back and film a quick epilogue if there are some things announced on the 3 anniversary on the blog post or something, or maybe they'll just drop a surprise state of play tomorrow. Who knows? We shall see. But if there are any bits of new things that are mentioned or announced, we will obviously be covering those on next week's episode. But for now, thank you for listening. If you've enjoyed the episode, please do get involved and tell your family and friends all about us. Jump into our Discord and say hello. I've been your host, Laurie. These two have been Alex and Reece. We've been joined by Jamie, and we will see you again next time. Until then, though, it's goodbye.